How's it going, everybody, and welcome back. I've got a kind of crazy story for you today, and I want to hear what your opinion is. I've got my opinions on what I think is going on. This is something that's been going on for the last couple of months, 2.5 months, and it really kind of came to a close today and yesterday. But I do want to hear what you guys think. Maybe I've got this whole situation wrong, or maybe I don't. You guys can be the judge and let me know. But it all focuses around this truck, which, if you don't remember it or if you're new to the channel, I bought this truck last year off my buddy Rob. It's a running, driving 1996 F150 four-wheel drive, obviously short cab, short bed. It's got a 5-speed and a 302, ice cold air, power windows, the whole shot. It runs and drives great. The only thing is that it had been rolled over in a snowbank. So the previous owner had just put like $2,000 in the front end and did the whole front, whole front end, went through the whole thing, new shocks, new bushings, new everything. And then his son just lost control on the ice, slid into a ditch, and it rolled over. So you're seeing the worst side of it. The other side, I'll show you in a minute. It's not nearly as bad, but here's the thing. I kind of wanted to know if the frame rail was straight on this, because whether I needed to just cut the roof off and replace the roof, or I needed an entire cab, I needed to know if the frame rail was straight. Now, I drive the truck around and it seems to drive just fine, but I wanted to make sure before I went forward to see what I needed to do. Got new doors for it in the shop. They're all super nice and all that different stuff. So I called a local shop. I explained what I had, what was going on. I even sent them pictures. They're like, yeah, no problem, bring it on down, and we'll measure it up and make sure it's straight, and we'll go from there. I'm like, cool. That was January 30th. So when I bought the truck from Rob, he had been using it for like hauling firewood and stuff, and the fuel pump went out on him. So I put a new tank and a new fuel pump in it, and once this guy agreed to take a look at the frame rails and measure it up, I went and bought a brand new battery for it, which was like $170. So got a new battery in it, whatever. I drive it over to them, made like a little reel and put it on Instagram or Facebook or something, or YouTube, whatever it was, and drove it over to them. So a week goes by, I don't hear anything. Originally they said it'd take about like a week that they could look at it and then it'd be good. Week goes by, I don't hear anything. Call them up and they're like, oh yeah, sorry, we've been busy, everybody's been sick, something, just can't get to it. I'm like, all right, cool. Well, it's got a busted out windshield. I don't really want it sitting out in the snow and rain, so what's going on with that? They're like, oh, we're bringing it in every single night. Don't worry about it. It's staying out of the elements. I'm like, cool, no problem. It's not a critical vehicle. It's just a project. I got it because it was cheap and it was at the right time, whatever. I picked it up. There we go. It's not anything that you got to rush on. He's like, great, sounds perfect. Another few weeks go by. Never hear anything. So I call them up, same thing. They're busy, they're all sick, something happened with one of their family members or whatever, I don't know. So again, it's not a critical vehicle, it was just whatever. So I'm like, take your time, bro. Like, if you're bringing it in and out, my biggest concern was I put a brand new battery in it and I didn't want the battery just to go dead sitting there, and that was it. So take as much time as you want. They're like, oh man, we disconnect the battery on it so it won't go dead, so don't worry about all that, it's fine. All right, cool. So I let it like a month go by. So I don't know. I think I talked to him one or two other times. It was the same story. Anyhow, yesterday I was passing right by the place and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to stop in there and check on the truck. So I go in. The owner isn't there, but one of the techs was there. And I walk in and I see that they had some cool vehicles up on their hoist and they got a couple of lifts in the shop there. And I look down and they had to cut out their concrete and pour deeper pads too for their lifts. So I look down, I see it, and this guy's talking to me about something about the cars, and I said, yeah, I noticed that you had to pour deeper pads for your lift. So did I. I just had that done in another 24 days or whatever. I'll be able to put my lift in, and then I can start working on my projects in the barn. He's like, oh yeah, that's pretty cool, yada yada. So he's like, so what are you here for? I'm like, I got that F150. He's like, oh yeah, that thing. I'm like, yeah, so I just wanted to find out what was going on. He's like, yeah, I haven't had a chance to measure it yet. So they've got these big long sticks with these movable pins on it, and they've got a book that tells them all these different points on the frame and body that they can move these. It's like got ruler scales on it and stuff, and they can measure different points on the frame and body, and that'll tell them if the vehicle is square or not, and then they can put it on their frame rack and pull it back into place where it needs to be. So the guy tells me, he's like, I haven't put the sticks on it yet and measured it up, but I drove it around the parking lot. That whole cab is twisted. It's junk. I'm like, okay, I'll take you around the truck. It didn't look twisty. He's like, oh yeah, I could tell just by driving it. That whole thing is junk. I'm like, all right. It's like, you're looking at about $8,000 for that cab. I'm like, 8,000 for the cab. That's a lot. And he's like, oh yeah, that thing is toast. It's not even worth putting any money into a truck like that. And I'm like, it's a 5-speed 302 4-wheel drive, OBS Ford F150. They're a super desirable truck right now. Everybody wants one. Everybody loves them. So I'm like, that seems like, it's crazy. It's like, those 5 speeds are Mazda transmissions. They don't hold up behind a 302. They just grenade out. They're total junk. You don't want that thing. And I said, well, I don't plan on like mud bogging the thing. I was just going to use it as like a summer cruiser, once I get it all fixed up and everything. He's like, I guess it would be okay for like light weekend driving. So I'm like, oh, all right. So, it's the same transmission that's been in it since 1996 with the same 302. Never had anything changed on it, so it's made it this far. Why would it all of a sudden start like grenading out? So I'm like, whatever. I don't even know what to think of this dude, like the information he's giving me. So then he's like, yeah, I guess if you got it for like $500, it'd be okay, because you can use some of the parts or sell them or whatever. I'm like, oh yeah, and he's like, yeah. So I guess if you wanted to sell it, I'd give you $500 for it. And I've got all these different trucks. I've got this truck, that truck. He starts naming off these vehicles he's got, 408 strokers, whatever it is. And he's like, yeah, I would give you $500 for that truck. Use the parts for some of my stuff. And I'm like, man, you just told me none of the parts were any good on this, and it's crap. So why would you even offer me any money if it's a junk truck with a junk transmission and the 302s are garbage? I don't understand where he was going with that. Like, why even offer me money if he's trying to tell me the entire thing is trash? I don't know. I thought it was kind of weird, so I was like, okay, and I just let him talk. I wasn't really responding to him. I was just taking it all in. So then I got home and I started thinking, I'm like, man, this guy works at a collision shop. He knows what to do with vehicles, right? So what could he possibly want? Does he even know where a body is? And maybe he's thinking he'll get this truck dirt cheap, slap a new body on it, cab, and then flip it for, the decent amount of money that they're worth, because it's a good running truck and whatever. Or does he want to really part it all out and make some money off of it? I don't know what his plan was, but it seemed fishy to me. And so finally today I was just like, you know what? I don't know if he'll try to pull a fast one on me with this thing or whatever. So I just drove over there, kind of surprised him, and just said, hey, I need the keys to the truck. Oh, really? He's like, yeah. So I go out, he's like, the keys are in it. So I'm like, okay. It's way out in this parking lot. It's got some clear plastic over the windshield so to keep the big rain out and stuff. I'm like, all right, keys are in it. Front tire is totally flat, so they weren't pulling it in like they said. Pop the hood. He's got a jump pack in his hand. Battery is still connected, so they weren't disconnecting the battery like they said. And that was it. So you could tell by the flat tire and all the dirt and everything, they hadn't been pulling it in and out like they said they were either. So I don't know what it was. So anyways, they aired up the tire for me. I started it up, jumped it, and I just brought it on home, because I thought all of that had a pretty strange vibe to it. Anyhow, I still don't know what to do as far as, the cab and everything. I don't know if it's straight. I have a pretty good idea that the frame is pretty good on it. So I can slide down south sometime, maybe pick up an entire body for it, just change everything over, and there you go. But when I was there picking it up, which was funny, there's a shop next door. All these people gathered around whenever I pulled the truck up for them to air up the tire. And all these people were loving this truck, even in this condition. They're like, oh man, what year is that? 96. Oh wow, man. 4-wheel drive? Yep. 5-speed? Yep. Oh, what engine? 302. No kidding. Yeah. So it turns heads, even crappy like this with a busted out windshield and everything. People still like this truck. So you guys let me know down in the comments what you think about this whole exchange with this person, because like I said, I think I understand where he was coming from, but my thought is, I just told you that I was putting a lift in my shop. People that have lifts usually know something about vehicles, like they work on cars. There's no other reason that somebody would install a lift in their shop unless they're storing like Ferraris or something like that, you know what I mean? So if he knew that I had a lift going in, he kind of had to know that I knew something about cars. Why would he tell me crazy things about like huge, like $8,000 for a cab? I don't know. You guys can let me know what you think down in the comments. I thought it was interesting. Anyway, it's here now. We'll figure it all out later on. Once the lift is installed, we'll put it up. We'll take a look at it ourselves and see if we can figure out like how to measure it here with whatever I can find online. And we'll go from there. Anyway, if you want to see more about this truck or the other projects I got going on, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll get into all that stuff later on. Thought I'd give you an interesting little update. Crazy. Anyhow, I'll catch you on the next one.